Hi, I'm Nick Merker with Miller, and I'm here today to talk about a new threat to your business, cybercrime. I'm a partner and co-chair of the firm's data security and privacy practice, and before becoming a lawyer, I was a systems network and security engineer for almost a decade at various companies, including Cars.com, the National Center for Supercomputing Applications, and others. So I'm very in tune and interested in this topic area and hoping to kind of set the stage for you here in this presentation. So cybercrime, what are criminals after? If I was giving this presentation maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I would only be focusing on the man stealing the credit card there. 2 or 3 years ago, the black market was filled with social security numbers, credit card information, and the like. Data breach type information that was put on the black market by hackers to try to make a buck. The issue is that the value of a credit card on the black market and the value of a social security number on the black market is rapidly dwindling because banks are getting smarter about getting out there and putting better fraud protection in place, and also consumers are getting much smarter about identifying fraud and working with state AGs and identity theft prevention services. So the data breach aspect there is actually, I think, lessening, and we're seeing these new kind of areas open up. And that is just the loss of data, whether it be proprietary data, confidential information, or data that the company believes is a trade secret. The loss of that data is becoming much more common. And also just hackers coming in and opening up access into your environment so they can come in and do damage later. And we'll talk about some of those damage vectors on the next couple slides. So what's at risk? The same thing is at risk that has been at risk in cybercrime and data breach situations as far as I can remember, money. And if you look at the amount of money lost in this area, it is a lot. From October 2013 to August 2015, there's over $1.2 billion lost in associated with cybercrime. And what are the threat vectors here? The threats, and I'm going to go through these individually, but the threats are business email compromise, spear phishing, phishing, all of those are kind of related. Ransomware, cyber-extortion, which is incredibly new, and the tried and true physical security that we'll touch on as well. So business email compromise. This isn't incredibly new. However, the FBI has released multiple public service announcements about the risks associated with business email compromise. One in January 22nd of 2015 and one in August 27th of 2015. And the issue is that folks are sending communications inside your company, whether to an accounts payable person, whether to the CEO, whether to any employee, trying to get that employee to do something based on the communication, whether it be open an attachment, maybe execute a wire transfer, maybe disclose credentials. Folks are using business email as a method to get into your company and obtain information. And the one that we're really seeing in the wild is a wire transfer fraud associated with business email compromise. The attack vector is incredibly simple. So let's say you're an accounts payable person your name is Jim Smith there in the example. You're an accounts payable person at a company. Your CEO is named John Doe and you work at example.com. In this email, someone has crafted an email to make it look like it is coming from John Doe. Really, this email is not coming from John Doe. Let's say John Doe's on vacation and Jim Smith gets an email here that says process a wire for this amount of money to the attached instructions, code this to admin expenses, and usually it says do this immediately, I need this done right now. You're Jim Smith or you're an accounts payable person, you get this email from your CEO, you freak out and you send that wire transfer. You just cost your company $260,000 in this example. And we're seeing this many times. And I think last year we probably saw over a dozen of these issues. And so in some situations that your company may have a spam gateway or may have some sort of prevention to avoid emails that come from malformed email headers where the last example could have happened. So what folks are doing is, let's say your company is named example.com, what folks are doing is they're registering the domain examp1e.com, something that looks like your company domain but really it's not, so they can craft communications making it look like it's from your CEO. Some of these communications are getting really, really clever. And this is an example with me where let's say I went to Paris and I posted on Facebook, just got back from Paris, happy to be home. And what attackers are doing is they're going out onto publicly available sources like Facebook, LinkedIn, and the like, and they're using information they can find to craft the absolute best spear phishing attack email that they can generate to me. So for this example, I just got back from Paris. If I received a malicious communication from someone trying to get me to do something, they can say, "Hey Nick, welcome back from Paris. I hope you enjoyed a kir while you were there. I hope you got to go up in the Eiffel Tower while you were there." Referencing some real public information that I posted to try to make this email look more legitimate. And then of course there's the call to action right after that. Hey, process $32,000 immediately on these wire instructions. And in this example, I may, if I trust John Doe, maybe John Doe is the chief financial officer of my company, he's a good friend of mine, he sends me these type of communications frequently, maybe I'd fall susceptible to these attacks. And they're getting more sophisticated than this. This is a very rudimentary example. What folks are doing is they're going into LinkedIn, they're figuring out who works at your company, trying to establish who is friends with who, and making the absolute best communication possible to you to get you to do something. And usually that something is wire money out of your company's bank account. We're also seeing phishing attacks. These are general phishing attacks associated with malware. So any of the two last slides that I had, they could include attachments that try to install malware onto your computer. There's also general phishing attacks where someone will send the same communication out to many people at your company with attachments that try to induce malware to be installed. And it can look at pretty simple, "Dear customer, here's some information, please click this link." In reality, that would not be a link to cnbach.com/update. That'd be a link to some malicious third-party website that would try to install malware on your computer. We're also seeing where the one that really works here that attackers are using is crafting an email that says, "Hey, please read this email. If you do not take action immediately, an automatic election will be made on your healthcare benefits. So please click this link to choose what election you want to make instead of having us do it for you." That type of communication really gets people's attention and gets folks to respond and click that link where malware will then get installed. And so what type of malware is being installed? Traditional viruses, maybe if you remember way back in the day, viruses that try to just propagate around your network like the Melissa virus, that day is probably gone. But there's also Trojans, backdoors into your computer, whether you install this malware and then an unauthorized third party can come in and gain access to your computer. Also rootkits, maybe information that can go out to your server infrastructure and try to compromise that. So this malware is getting more sophisticated. We're also seeing malware that is specifically tailored to siphon off banking credentials to your online banking account. So if you install this malware, you don't even know it's there. The next time you log into Bank of America, Chase, or whatever banking software you use, it siphons off those credentials and transmits them to a third party. And then now that third party has access to your bank account and they can wire transfer money away. We're also seeing a rise in ransomware. And this is statistics from August of 2015, but this graph is still real, and probably if we did this for Q1 2016, it would be a larger blue bar on the right, because there is a rapid rise in ransomware. And so what is ransomware? Ransomware is you get an email, "Hey, dear HR director, please see my attached resume." You open that email and of course you get a ransomware pop-up here. And what happens is the ransomware goes out and it tries to encrypt all files on your computer that it can touch. Usually the My Documents folder, places on your computer where ransomware will think you have documents that you need to do your job. It'll encrypt all those and then it'll say, "Please pay me 10 Bitcoin or whatever it is if you want access to your files again." More sophisticated ransomware is going out there and not only encrypting files on your computer, but also encrypting files on network shares in your environment. So it'll go out to every single share that it can touch that you have write access to, and it'll just encrypt all those files so you can't get access to them. Unless you pay Bitcoin, or what a lot of companies do, you restore those files from backup. One concern here is if you pay this fee, and in a lot of these ransomware attacks, the ransomware will tell you that other companies that have paid their fee and that you really will get access to your files. But in some situations, you may not get access to your files again. You pay the fee, they don't give you access. Or you pay the fee, now you're on a list of companies that pay the fee, and maybe more folks try to attack you to get more money out of you. So there's some concerns on maybe not paying in that argument. And this is the newest thing that we've seen is cyber-extortion. So the value of credit cards are going down, the value of social security numbers is going down. And so what are hackers doing? They're going into your environment, they're lying in wait, and they're getting as much information in the environment as they can. They get your proprietary information, they get your confidential information. Let's say you're a manufacturer where you're producing a product and you can sell it for 10 cents cheaper than the guy down the block. And the reason you can sell for 10 cents cheaper is because of a very proprietary manufacturing process that if the guy down the block knew, they could copy and they could shave off that 10 cents advantage you have. Or maybe it's some special design that you have. And so those trade secrets are very important to the company and provide you economic value. What hackers will do is they will come in, they will try to obtain that information, and then they will extort you. They will say, if you do not pay us $30,000 in Bitcoin, we're going to release this information to your competitor, or sell the information to your competitor, or release this just to the general public. And so what do you do? In most situations, you get this communication and the hacker gives you a very small flavor of what they've actually compromised. They maybe show you one file. They maybe show you a snippet of a file that they have. And they try to say, I have all this information. If you don't pay me, I'm going to release it. So you're scrambling with your legal folks, with your forensics folks, to try to determine where the breach is, what they have, and what value it has to the company. And usually the hackers will give you 10 days, a very short amount of time for you to try to respond and pay them. And if you don't, they will release it. So what do you do as a company? Each one of these situations is dramatically different. There's no right or wrong answer that you can just talk about in the general sense. If the information is incredibly sensitive and important to your company, maybe you do pay. Maybe you don't pay because you're concerned that the hacker will release the information anyway. Maybe you have a special insurance policy that will cover you paying. So there's a lot of different factors that are at play here, and each situation is very different. But this is a very new type of attack that we're seeing, the lie in wait and then try to extort the company. We're also seeing just issues with physical security, and I'll just touch on this briefly, in that there is a traditional attack of someone breaking into your environment and taking your computers. They probably just want to sell the computers, sell the laptops on eBay, wipe them and sell them on eBay. They may want to look at files to gain information, but what you would have to do if you would be legally obligated if someone came in and took your computer, you would have to understand what information is on that computer to see if you are triggered, that issue triggered any state data breach notification laws. If that was a finance person's computer and you had an Excel spreadsheet with all of your customers, their social security numbers, maybe their banking information, maybe their driver's license number, those types of information, that may, the fact that that laptop was stolen, if it wasn't encrypted, may trigger state data breach notification laws. And if you're an entity that's covered under HIPAA, you could have HIPAA notification laws. So there could be concerns there where in reality the attacker probably just came in to steal the laptop and sell it on eBay. They don't care what information is on it, but under most state data breach notification laws, you would have to analyze under that the hacker's sole purpose in taking that laptop is to siphon the information off and then sell it on the black market, and you'd have to take that seriously. So physical security is something interesting to think about still today. So, all right, there's the scary slides, just new things that we're seeing with clients in the wild. And how to prevent this stuff, there are many different safeguards you can implement. One that I always touch on is to perform a risk assessment to your company, understand where your information is, what threats there are to that information, and then deploy risk mitigation tactics as you see fit to take care of that risk. That is a massive undertaking. A lot of companies have not done that, may not have the budget to do that this year. So I just want to focus in on a couple key things that you could do with a small budget or something you could implement pretty quickly. And the first is security awareness. Inform your employees of these types of issues. And security awareness is something that you need to let your employees know about these problems, but do it in a way that's creative. If you are having someone in a suit, exactly like me, reading off of a power presentation and going in front of your sales and finance folks, that is not going to work. You have to be much more creative than that. Engage your employees, really work with them to understand what these issues are. What some companies are doing is they're engaging in mock phishing attacks directly against their employees, and then in the event that the employee clicks that email, clicks that link in the email, they're given a training opportunity right there. The employee says, hey, you shouldn't have clicked on this email. Someone from the help desk is going to come by and talk to you about being careful when interacting with email communications. That's a great training vector. It's something interactive with the employee that they can react to and learn from immediately. What other companies are doing is a carrot or stick approach where, look, if you click that phishing email, we're going to take an adverse employment action against you, kind of threaten the employee that way. I'm not sure that's the best tactic. I've seen some companies use the carrot approach where, look, if you have a clean desk or you read all these security policies or you do this security awareness training on time or you do this approach, we're going to give you a Starbucks gift card or we're going to give you some other benefit of the company. I've also seen companies take an empowerment approach where you get into the company and your default position is you can't do X. Let's say it's you can't bring your own personal laptop into the environment. And then the company says, look, if you want to bring your personal laptop in the environment, you will go to these training courses, you will learn what's acceptable use of your laptop at the company, and you'll be empowered to go do this on your own. And then once you show that you can take care of your own laptop in our environment appropriately, then we're going to let you bring that laptop in. Or you're going to sign a rider allowing you to bring that laptop in, something like that. So there are third-party services that can help you with all of those items. Of course, your legal counsel can come and help you kind of devise what strategy makes sense, and in some situations help you conduct security awareness. I've done some of these with clients in the past as well. Another thing that you can do is implement your banking safeguards, and this should be more broad. It should be implement your third-party vendor safeguards. If you are using a Google Mail, for example, Google Mail has opportunities for two-factor authentication on email. That's something that maybe your company should consider deploying. It's a relatively low cost, and that's just a functionality that you can have right with that email provider right there. Also, your banking providers. If you are worried about fund transfer fraud, your bank may have safeguards that you can implement. Like if someone tries to initiate a wire transfer, the bank will call someone and verify that that wire transfer needs to occur. Or the kind of 2 keys to fire the nuclear weapons analysis, where it takes 2 people to send a wire transfer, something like that. So your bank may have safeguards that you can implement. And have spam email gateways to try to detect some of these things. Remember the example I had before with examp1e.com? Here's another example with IceMiller with 3ls.com. Some spam email gateways will automatically block domains that look like yours. So if someone registers a domain that kind of is close to yours, it'll just automatically block it so you don't even see those communications to try to avoid your employees from clicking those links in emails. And of course, establish internal processes. Have an information security program that takes a look at some of these risks, has separation of duties for wire transfer, maybe is one thing, and other security items that you can have as a company. It's not enough to just rely on your third-party vendors, rely on your banks, rely on infrastructure that you bring in. You have to have some holistic information security program at your company that addresses these issues. And the last thing I wanted to mention is insurance. You are not going to be able to mitigate all risk in this area, and that residual risk can be potentially covered with insurance. And the cyber insurance world is kind of the Wild West. Insurance carrier A may do cyber insurance completely different than insurance carrier B. This isn't your standard CGL policy. And so when you're reading cyber insurance policies, trying to figure out what to buy, you have to really understand what risks there are to your organization and what you're trying to cover, what residual risk you really need to take care of with these insurance policies. For example, fund transfer fraud, there may be a specific endorsement specifically towards fund transfer fraud. And if you don't have that endorsement, your coverage might be limited to $5,000 or $25,000. And in the example I had before, when you have these losses of maybe $150,000, you would be left holding the bag in that situation. And there's other endorsements, like I mentioned with the cyber-extortion type policy. There are some policies that will cover you actually paying a third party in the event that you're getting extorted. Also, some of these cyber insurance policies come baked in with legal counsel panels, with forensics vendors and the like. So when you have one of these issues come through, it's important to work with your insurance provider, your insurance folks, or your legal counsel that can help you understand the insurance landscape immediately. Because if you don't notify the insurance provider in a timely manner, or you go off and select legal services or forensics vendors and you don't follow what the insurance policy requires that you do, the insurance provider may say we can't cover what you've done, or we can't cover the full extent of what you've gone out and done. So it's important to understand what your insurance options are when one of these incidents occurs, and work with your legal counsel or your insurance folks to make sure you're getting the coverage that you deserve. And with that, I wanted to thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something about cybercrime.